Be careful.
He's and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
And welcome to the Acement, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto, actually in the Acement.
Yes, actually live from the Acement. I'm live, not from the Acement.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to represent with my background tonight.
I appreciate that. Scotty Boy's got a new job, and he's on the road.
Yes, I'm on the road. I'm sitting in the middle of New Jersey in a Holiday Inn right now. But I would not miss tonight no matter what. Come hell or high water, I would have taken a plane back for this episode if I needed to. It's so many times, Ace, we love our audience. We love our fans. I mean, we have such a great group of people that listen and interact. And we do this show, obviously, for them. And some nights we become them with the guests that we have on. I'm trying not to fanboy out.
As evidenced by your discussion before we went live, when you basically started the whole show without being live. Because you started telling stories.
I can't help myself. I'm such a fan of this guy, and he's meant so much to me. So I'm so happy that you got him on.
Yeah, no, I am very, very, very excited. Before we bring our guest on, just a quick, we would be remiss if we didn't introduce our bourbon dates. And because we're in two different places, we're
double dating.
Double dating. So what do you got going on at the Holiday Inn in Jersey?
I got Four Roses small batch.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we've had that before. That's very good.
We've had her before. She very, very nice tasting, a great sipping bourbon. Just nice, easy, relaxing, perfect for tonight.
Good. Well, I am doing Jefferson's Reserve Pritchard Hill. That's the one that's finished in the Cabernet cast. Had a little bit of that left, so I figured, well, since I'm
a special one for a special night,
drinking alone, and it is a special night. So listen, if you read the online event and you started reading the bio of our guest, this person, I mean, he was one of the biggest influences on me when we first started, because I'll never forget, a couple of years before I started doing comedy, they had the 9th annual Young Comedian Special, and with Rodney Dangerfield, and there were some great acts on there, but two people stood out to me on that show. One of them was Sam Kinison, and the other person was our guest tonight. But I mean, Rita Rudner, Louis Anderson, some people that you've heard of were on that show as well. And then real
juggernauts in comedy came out of that special.
Oh, absolutely. And then so I was lucky enough, and I reminded him before the show, I was lucky enough to get to open for him a bunch of times at the Providence Comedy Connection back in the late 90s, early 2000s. You told a story about how you got pulled up on stage to host that night when you were just going to see him. And so we are so honored and excited to welcome our guest tonight. I don't know if I should introduce him as Epi Epperman, Jiffy Jeff, but we know him as Bob Nelson.
Wait, it is me. Hey guys, I didn't realize that you saw me here doing that. Great to be here in where am I? Providence, Rhode Island.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks.
And by the way, if he's at the Epperman, he's live from Cleveland.
Yeah, and today we'll be sharing great value.
Great value water.
Yeah, drinking water, purified by the whatever.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, man. We are so excited to have you on. So first off, let's start by saying, because I didn't mention it before the show, but well, I'm all over the place, and you already said that you were probably going to zigzag. So
Oh yeah, forget
when
it.
you first got on stage back in the '70s, right? Were you in college? Is that how it happened?
Yes, I started out when I started. I was always a class clown, and I used to do really crazy, wacky stuff. People to this day come up to me and from high school and say, "Remember when you did that?" And I go, "No, I don't." He goes, "That was sick, man." I would do really crazy, stupid stuff. That's how I really got started because I don't know what it was. I just wanted to be accepted because I was kind of a doofus, I was really
Yeah.
skinny and I didn't really fit in. And I was kind of just average in sports and stuff.
Yep.
I was like the utility guy.
Yep.
And and I didn't know how to, date or anything like that. And all the football players, because Alec Baldwin was our quarterback in football.
Really?
Really?
Alfred G. Berner High School. So I went to school with um,
Alec
Alec
Baldwin.
Baldwin.
Alec
And
Wow.
yeah, and Huerman too, the serial murderer.
Who?
Oh, jeez.
The guy that they
Gilgo
just
Beach
caught?
guy.
The-
Yeah, he went to Berner. He was in the drama club that I was in.
Oh my God.
I don't remember him at all, though.
No.
I think I remember him playing football, but I'm not sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I would do really stupid stuff. I thought I was Jerry Lewis for most of my, junior high school and beginning of high school. I just pretended I was Jerry Lewis all the time.
Yeah.
There's one of the things I would do that I remember doing this one. I would stand at the bus stop with a pile of books, pretty much like Epi, and just kind of be a geeky doopy guy and have all these books in my hand. And they're going, "What are you doing? Everybody's going, "What are you doing with all those books?" I go, I have class. I have a lot of classes. And then the bus would pull up. Now I lived literally a half a mile from or less from the school, but we had a highway. So there was a highway blocking the way to get to school. So they would send buses so that we didn't get killed crossing the highway. So I'm standing there and I'm holding all the books, and then the bus would come and all my friends get on the bus and I would drop my books. And I'd start kicking them around and going, "Wait, I'll be right there. Hold it." And kick the book and everything. And the bus drivers, holding the door going, "What are you doing? Get in the bus." And I'm going, "I'll be right there." And all my friends are laughing hysterical because I'm falling all over myself. He closes the door. I pick up the books. I throw them behind the bushes. The bus goes on to the next few along the route for the next few stops. I run across the highway to the school. And I get before the bus, and what I do is I get up on the fence. It's like, had the 8-foot high fences they have at the schools.
Yes.
I hung myself on the fence right where the bus stopped. So the bus would pull up to the fence, and the door would open, and I'd be hanging on the fence, like this. That's the kind of stuff I would do.
Oh my God.
That's
So
very Jerry Lewis like to do something like that. That's very
Right.
much like
That's
that.
Yeah,
that was my
physical.
setup and punch.
Yeah. The setup was on getting on the bus, and the punch was running across the highway and hanging himself.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So the way I got started in comedy was I was always fooling around, whether I was at school or work. And I was in college. I was doing summer stock. I was a theater major, and I had all these really dinky jobs because when you're an actor and you have a show that runs for 2 weeks, you have to call your boss and say, I can't come in for these 2 weeks. I got rehearsals and I got the shows, and so I was a stock boy. I was a security guard, and I pumped gas on the weekends. I was a paste up artist, which is like the digital creators of today, where you would actually paste together ads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this is the kind of jobs I did. And if I told my boss, I said, I can't make it because I have a play. He goes, "Who cares? You're a stock boy. Get out of here.
Right.
I'll see you in 2 weeks." And because I was always funny at work, they never fired me for that. But what happened was I'm at the paste up place, and this is how I get my first shot on stage. I'm at the paste up place, and I'm putting together all these articles. And when you read the article, they say, look out, see if you see anything wrong with the article. Because you're pasting up, 8 a.m., little tiny letters, you're putting 8 a.m. And then on the bottom, it says open 24 hours. So it says, hours of operation, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then on the bottom, it says open 24 hours. So I'm like, I got to bring this to quality control. And, I want to do that because, you bring it to the secretaries and you hang out and you laugh and you fool around and give them the thing. And they would call down south because it was in New York, Long Island. We did we did the telephone book ads for Southern Bell, which
Yep.
was down south.
Yep.
So it would be like a tractor company or a hay and feed place, and they would call down and say, "Listen, there's a problem with your ad." I said, "Could I be on? Could I make the phone call? Could I make the phone call as a character?" So I get on the phone and I go, "Hey, how you doing? This is New York. We got a problem with your ad. It's kind of messed up. It says you're open during the day and you close at night, but then you open for 24 hours, which is kind of stupid to have that on this ad. It's kind of dumb. Don't you think that's dumb?" And the guy would be on the other end of the going, "Who is this? What do you mean, your telephone book? What do you? I don't have no telephone, you know." And everybody in the office would be laughing,
Right.
and they would be laughing so much that eventually they had to go into another room and listen on the speakerphone
Oh, Jesus.
because I would be messing with the people all the time.
Yep.
And there was this one time where the secretary dials the number and then it starts ringing, and I gotta talk to this guy about his hay and feed or whatever. And the guy answers the phone. He goes, "Hello, hello, hello," like that. And I go, "Hi, this is New York. There's a problem with your telephone book ad." And he goes, "I don't have no. What are you talking about? You know?" And he's talking like Nixon. He's acting like he's Nixon.
Yep.
You know, he's going, "This is Richard M. Dixon, 1500 Hicksville Road in Massapequa." I'm going, "What are you talking about?" And I kept doing my act. I go, "Well, you really sound really fun." You know, I'm doing this whole thing. And everybody in the audience is laughing. And they realized they dialed the wrong phone number. So I'm talking to some guy on Long Island who just happens to be opening a comedy club. He's gonna do comedy nights on Wednesday. It's like and he goes, "You're funny. You should come down to my club." He's got a pipe and everything. He's like Nixon.
Yeah.
Richard M. Dixon, come on down.
Richard M. Dixon.
Yeah. So my friends say, "You got to go." So the next Wednesday, all my friends come down to Richard M. Dixon's from the Paste Up Place. All my security guard friends, all the stock boy kids and everything. They all come to the show, and I'm on stage. I don't have an act. I just go up there and act like an idiot the whole time.
Right.
Everybody's hysterical. Everybody's laughing so hard because of my friends. You know.
Right.
And I just loved it. I was like, "This is the greatest thing." I did stuff like Robin Williams I would go behind the curtain. There was a curtain on the wall. I go behind the curtain. Just a minute, I got to vote. You know, I go behind the curtain, and then I'm playing with the picture frames, and I'm looking for safes or whatever. I'm doing all this stupid stuff, and I'm doing really well. And after the show, there's a guy sitting at the barn, and he's a big, heavyset guy with a beard. He's got this really pissed off face on, and my friends go, "That guy wants to talk to you." I go, what does he want? And they go, "I don't know, but he's really mad, you know." So I go over, and his name was Bob Woods. He was a comedian, Bobby Woods. He was on. It was his first night too, and he didn't do so well. And he did impressions. He was good, but he didn't get the laughs I got. You know, people weren't there for him. You know,
Right.
So
yeah, you had
so
a
I
bunch
go
of
over to him.
friends.
I sit at the bar with him, and he's got the beard and he's going, "You're not funny. It's just because your friends were here." And I go, "Hey, what are you being? What's that all about? You know, what's the big deal?" He goes, I'm done with you. Go ahead, go away, get out of here. Just want to let you know,
Really?
you suck.
That was
You're not
his-
even funny.
And that was his first time?
That
And he
was
had that
his
kind
first
of
time,
attitude?
and it was my first time.
Wow.
So now, I'm killing every week, and then I realized that my stock boy friends and all the people from the security, they don't have money to keep coming.
Right.
Because they can't afford the $5 cover charge. That's insane. $3, whatever it was. And so I'm on stage like 5 weeks later, and none of my friends are there. And I'm bombing. I mean, I'm like going down. I mean, really, really bad. And I'm starting to sweat, and I'm thinking, this is embarrassing. And I'm like going, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I'm done here. And the sweat's pouring down my back. And I said something very self-derogatory towards myself.
Mhm.
And I hear a big laugh in the back of the room. And it was that big guy, Bob Woods.
Yep.
And he's got the beard. He goes, "Ha, ha, ha. Now that was the funniest thing you've ever said so far." And it drinks the beer. And I get off stage, and he goes, "Come here, kid." And I go over to him. And, by that time, he's doing good because he's actually working his material, and he's figuring out what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
So I'm sitting with him. He's going, "I told you weren't funny. You need to quit the business." I'm going, No, I'm funny. You don't, just because I didn't do well. And so it was like a personal thing because I was doing well in theater.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have that feeling again. I didn't want to have that flop sweat and all that.
Right.
So I'm thinking but I had to prove to this guy. I had to prove to him I was funny. So the next few weeks, it was like a big thing, he would just rank on me and just bust my chops. And
Yeah.
I would keep telling him I am funny. And after a while, I started getting funny, and I figured out what I was doing, and he was doing well, and then we were like the two of us were really staples of the place, and then we became really good friends. And basically, what we did was we ripped
Wow.
people. Any young comic or brand new kid came in, we just tear them a new
You
one.
did the same thing.
We did the same thing to them, and
But
either
you
they rose
created-
up to the occasion or they didn't.
But you created the
Right,
motivation that he created for you, for a lot of other people, right?
We were trying to, but not everybody took it that way.
Yeah, right.
But
can
we didn't
imagine.
care. We didn't care. And
You
it
got
was
to earn your stripes. You got to
Yeah,
earn your
yeah.
stripes.
Bobby Woods. I remember he passed
Wow.
away.
Oh, did he?
I was so sad when he passed away because they called him the round mound of sound, and he did when Eddie Murphy does Jackie Gleason and Norton,
Yeah.
Yes.
actually doing
Bob
Bob
Woods.
Woods' impression
Wow.
of that, and he actually stole his material too. But
Oh,
Bobby
really?
Woods, yeah, he was so funny. He was such a character. He'd get in fights with people in the audience. If the guy in
Really?
the front was giving a hard time, he'd throw the mic aside and just start jumping on it. And he's big. He was like 300 pounds, white hair. He looked like Captain Kangaroo.
Now,
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 Bob, question for you: was your material right from the beginning? Like, you create a lot of characters on stage.
Yeah.
Obviously, you always have been very character driven with some of your most famous routines. Was your material always kind of character driven? And because it seems like coming from a acting background, that would make sense. So, is that kind of where your comedy always came from?
Yeah, I was always mimicking people, or
Yeah.
I was brought up on some of the greatest, comedians out there ever to do, like Jonathan Winters and Danny Kaye and Jerry
Yeah.
Lewis and Red Skelton was huge with me.
I was going to say, he's your favorite, isn't he?
Red
Skelton
Skelton
was one of your.
he became my mentor, and I used to watch him all the time, and so I was always into the characters, and it's also was more comfortable for me to be someone else because I was always trying to, I was always in search of a whole nother
voice.
world,
Yeah.
and I was always had that imagination, and I just enjoyed people around me. Always seemed to be so much more interesting to me than myself.
Yeah.
So I would try to become somebody else.
Yeah.
We've actually we've spoken to other comics that do a lot of characters as well, and I remember Bob Marley from up in Maine saying similar thing. He said there's certain things that if I say it as me in my act, it doesn't go well, but if I say it as my aunt, my uncle, my dad, his family, he said they get away with saying things that I would never get away with saying to the audience.
Yeah. It was not me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Though. So you mentioned Eddie Murphy, and I know that you guys had been, you worked together for a while, right?
We were in a comedy team. It was a comedy team.
And we had another, well, obviously we haven't had Eddie Murphy on, but we did have another person on from that team.
Rob Bartlett?
Yeah, we had him on a couple of years ago. So he talked a little bit. So how did you guys all come together? Was it at Richard M. Dixon's, right?
Well, yeah, we were. That's where we were performing, and there was an agent named King Broder, and King Broder was one of these guys who would always do these shows, and he would book a show for like $5,000 and give the acts $10 each.
Yeah, right.
So he's one of those guys, but he was such a character. He would book stuff in the Catskills. He was he knew all the old guys, and he would watch us. He'd watch me and I think the first identical was myself, Jim Myers, and it's Dave Strassman. David Strassman, who's a ventriloquist.
Okay.
And he's huge in Australia. He's like huge.
Really?
Yeah, David Strassman, and he was one of the originals. Myself and Eddie Murphy, Murphy, myself, and Dave Strassman. And Dave did not trust King Broder at all because he wanted to sign us as individuals, and whatever. It was just a kind of weird thing. I didn't really care. I said, "We'll just sign as a group." And what happened was, so he left, and then Jim Myers stepped in, and then Jim Myers couldn't deal with Eddie because he was such an arrogant,
really,
kind of like he knew it all. He was just a kid.
Right. Yeah,
he's
he-
still
didn't he
just a kid as far as I'm concerned.
Really? Didn't he start when he was like 16 or 17?
Yeah, he was like 17
Right.
years
so it was
old.
a couple of
and-
years before SNL.
Yeah. And the whole idea behind the identical triplets, which was a great idea, was each one of us had about 20 minutes tops, because we weren't seasoned or
Right.
anything. And what we did was we put ourselves together as a group, then we did 10 minutes each, and then we came back together as a group, and that would be a full. I mean, 20. Yeah,
20 minutes each.
Yeah, 20 minutes each, and then do interact in between. So it was a really good idea.
Yeah.
And and a lot of the stuff we did was a creation of my kind of like character things.
Yeah.
The buckwheat and whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it improv that you guys were doing, or was it more rehearsed?
It was both. We would do
Okay,
really. We tried to be really different. First of all, we called ourselves the identical triplets.
Right.
And there were two white guys and a black guy.
And a
And we say,
black guy.
obviously,
Yeah.
one of us is not a
Like the
brother,
other.
a triplet.
Right.
And then they say hello to Rob, and then Rob would take a bow like he's not the real triplet.
Right. Right.
But instead of the black guy, we'd always play off that.
Right.
We used to do a thing. We did the identity. We did an impression of a total eclipse. Rob Bartlett would stand totally still like this, and Eddie would walk in front of Rob until he was totally and I'd be standing next to him with a pair of sunglasses and a piece of paper with a hole in it. And go, oh my eye! I burned my eye.
That's
Oh, my God,
hilarious.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And
Stuff like that.
how long did you guys do that for?
About I want to say close to 2 years, maybe
Yeah.
less. And
Yeah.
and then Eddie got the featured spot on Saturday Night
SNL.
Live.
Yeah.
And then he didn't have any material, so he started borrowing from us.
Really?
But then Rob Bartlett and I kept going. We did a thing called Rob and Bob, which I thought was funnier than the identical triplets. But
Really?
yeah, it was fun because Rob is brilliant. He's
Oh,
just
my
so
God, yeah.
funny. He just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
He is so fast.
We had
You
him.
know, yeah.
Scott, you weren't
I wasn't
even
there.
on. You weren't on because I
No.
can't remember what you were out of town, but we went so long, we couldn't stop him. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we were coming up on 2 hours, and I turned to my filling co-host. I'm like, I'm gonna hurt myself if I don't go upstairs and pee. And I had to leave the show to go pee, and Rob was still going. And
Let me tell you something about that guy. He does not break character either.
No.
There was a time we were going into New York City, and he used to work in the city as like a doorman or something. Anyway, we're going into the city, and we're on the train, the Long Island Railroad. We get on the train, and all of a sudden he flips his eyes up in his head like this, and he starts going, "Are we going to go see Father Florian?" And I'm going, "What? What?" He goes, "Are we going to see Father Florian?" And he's being really loud.
Yeah.
On the train, and he's going, where's my cane? I can't find my cane. He's acting like a blind guy. I'm going, Rob, and he starts grabbing and touching people. I'm going, Rob, stop. And he's going, I'm just very excited. Is Father Florian here now? And he's acting like a blind guy. An hour and a half going into the city.
No.
On
the
the
whole
train,
time
he
did
did
not break.
not stop. He was
my God.
blind. He was a blind person from the start to the finish, and the things that he did was so freaking funny. And I'm people looking at me like there's something wrong with me because I'm laughing at him.
Because you're laughing, right?
And they're going, "Why are you laughing at this bald guy?"
Yeah,
this blind
you're
guy.
the jerk. You're
Yeah,
the
right.
Wrong
jerk
with
in
you?
that situation.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me where I'll laugh at somebody or just be totally myself when someone. Peter Potofsky is another one. He's a comedian. He's a clown. The guy
Yes.
that Scott was talking about.
Yes.
We would travel a lot around the country, and we're going down south, and we would stop at these cigar places, like discount cigar places. And he goes in, and he starts looking. I want this cigar, and he's telling the lady, "I want the fattest, strongest cigar that will kill me if I take 3 puffs in a row. If I inhale, I'll die." And I'm like, "Oh, come on, we got to get out of here." And he just keeps doing that. And I said, and I just totally lost it. And I said to the lady, I said, just kill him now. And I was serious.
Yeah, right.
I said, take him in the back and let him smoke every cigar in the place. She's going, he's so funny and nice. And what is wrong with you? And I'm like, oh, you don't understand. We have a gig in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, right.
We're 20 minutes away. And he's playing with the cigar stuff. So,
that's funny.
This comedian, some of these guys are just out of their minds.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what? I always thought that, we go on stage, we tell jokes, and we're saying the things that people think but never would say out loud, and we're acting out these characters that sometimes we have to do stuff like that to let off our steam, because what we do as on stage is the things that they do to let off steam. So for us to let off steam is another level above that. So that's why we go and do these crazy things when we're hanging out with our comedian friends and everything like that.
Right.
We push each other's buttons. Like Rob doing the blind man thing to try to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's the type of stuff. Because I'll do that to Ace. We'll go to a cigar bar or something like that, and the bartender will come over and go, "What can I get you guys?" And I'll look at Ace and go, "So, sweetie, what are you interested in tonight? What are you thinking?"
This is the cigar bar in my town. I know these people. Stop! I have to go here way more than you.
I'll look at the bartender and it's this sweet girl, and I'll go, "Does your man treat you like that too?"
Yeah, oh,
like that.
I had to walk out.
Yeah. And we just fool around like that all the time. So it's so much fun.
It's funny. Would you bring something? It reminded me of something when my wife has always been a big fan of mine, and she still is.
That's good.
She just wants to come to my shows all the time, and she always wants me to do funny stuff. But what happened to me was when I was before I really started to make some money at this and do really well with with the Rodney and whatnot.
Yeah,
I was always funny off stage because I didn't have a stage.
Right.
Then what happened was I started getting everything out on stage, and I started to get really serious off stage. Where it was like, oh, that's for there. That's not now.
Right.
And that's like a dangerous thing to let happen to you, because then what you're doing is you're separating yourself. It's like the yolk from the white of the egg, and it's sad because now I'll get it. My wife's is confused because I could be so silly and so funny and stupid on stage, but I don't want to embarrass myself
in front of her
at a Walmart or something, or because there's people looking, and I'm Bob Nelson.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh yeah, exactly, Bob. You're Bob Nelson. What are you doing?"
Put the balloons in the big shirt down.
Yeah.
They don't want to see the football skit. Yes, they do.
But
now, Bob, was that Rodney Dangerfield special the thing that kind of really pushed you over the top and really launched your career into that next level? Was that the thing that really did it for you?
Yes, it was that. What happened was I was always a Long Island comedian. There was a Long Island comedians, and there were the city comics.
Right.
And I entered the Big Laugh Off, which was like a competition. Tommy Smothers was the MC, and there was Jerry Seinfeld. Was it Jerry Seinfeld? Yeah, George Wallace, Jerry Seinfeld, Mark Wiener. It was all these guys, and I came in from the open auditions, and I got a lot of heat a little bit because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I wasn't just typical stand-up with monology, and I was just going crazy and doing crazy stuff.
Right.
And what happened was I started getting work at the comic strips around the country. There was one in Florida, and I was on stage in Florida, and I was doing my football routine, and I get off stage, and as I'm walking off stage, I walk towards the back of the room, and there's Rodney Dangerfield walking towards me. And he looks at me and goes, "Hey, man, very funny stuff, man. I got to tell you, how would you like to be on an HBO special with me?" And I go, "What?" Wow. He goes, "Yeah, I want to put you on an HBO special. It'd be me, you, and another guy who got so far, Sam Kennison." And I go, "Seriously? Yes. And he goes, "Okay, you're in. Let's go find some more acts." And which we went around South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, at the different comedy clubs and stuff, and looking for other guys.
Wow.
And that's how I got it. And
Holy
it's
crap!
yeah, it was like that. It was like God, and he became
I
my
mean,
comedy godfather after
It
that.
had
Yeah,
to be. It
yeah.
had to be surreal enough just to have Rodney walk up to you and say, "Great set," but then to turn around and go,
Yeah.
"How'd you like to be on HBO with me?"
It was like the second sentence. It was like, "How you
Right.
doing? Very funny. How would you like to be in an HBO special?" Bam. That was
Wow.
always the way he was, straight to the point.
Yeah.
And that just from there, I did the HBO special, and then he did another one and Sam and I were on the second one as well.
Yep.
And then we did the Ain't Easy Being Me, and it was just he became my godfather, my comedy godfather. He loved me, I loved him, and
Yeah.
we were totally different
Right,
because
yeah.
he loved the fact that I could work clean,
Right,
and
right.
this way he
And
would shock him.
And that's what I loved about that is he seemed to be able to see funny no matter what, because you were hilarious in that special, and then Sam obviously was very funny, but two completely
Totally
different
different.
styles.
Yeah.
Different approaches. You were very clean. Sam was very in your face and very
Yeah.
aggressive,
Yeah.
but it was still funny, and Rodney could recognize that you both had your place. So let me show both these guys to the world. So
Not
that was
just
impressive.
not just us though. I mean, the stable of comedians that
Oh,
he
yeah.
had
Oh my
on there
God.
is like incredible. Louis Anderson, Rita Rudner,
Yeah.
Ray Romano did one of those.
Ray Romano, Maurice
Yeah.
LaMarche.
Yeah, I remember
Yes.
that. I remember that year when I was on that
Yeah.
show.
Do you remember
was
that, Ray?
awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it.
Robert.
Yeah. Listen, any chance Scott can bait me into an impression, it happens. I don't know. I lose my mind.
Was Gilbert ever on one of
No,
those?
I don't think
No.
Gilbert was. No.
I think
Are
he
you
might.
sure?
Did he get on
he
the?
didn't host
He,
one, Ace?
he might have got on the last. Rodney had one. This is funny. He did. I did two with Rodney. Then I did my half-hour special. I had Rodney open it, and then I did my. Anyway, what happened was he did one where he says, Nelson, we're gonna do an HBO special. I forget what it was called. Backed by not it was he goes, it's gonna be me, Sam Kennison, Robert Schimmel, Bill, all the dirty acts.
Schimmel.
Yeah.
And we're all going to be filthy. We're going to be dirty, filthy. Okay. You want to do it? Do you want to do it with us? And I go, and he goes, okay, you're out.
Wow.
Because
Like
I
you said,
hesitated.
Like you said, he was just direct. That was it.
Yeah.
He knew you
Yeah.
because you had to think about it. He knew you weren't really
Yeah.
feeling it. You know.
You got to think about
Wow.
it. You're out. Okay.
Wow.
You can open for me at Westbury next week, but you're out of this. All right.
Yeah. Wow. But that's awesome that he always asked you.
Oh yeah.
Because like you said, that stable of comics. Now, because we obviously just lost him recently, but was Pee Wee Herman ever on one of the Rodney specials, or did he just have his one-man show, and that was how he broke?
Pee-wee?
I don't think he was on any.
Pee Wee
I don't
was
know.
on.
I don't think
one
it
of
was
the
on.
things. No.
No.
Oh.
No, he never. I don't think he was on any because Showtime did some
He
specials.
did.
Yeah, he was
did.
Too. HBO did some, but
Yeah.
I never remember Pee Wee being with any of the other young comedian specialists. He
Yeah.
was always kind of unique and on his own.
But I did see
He
him
had his own
on
show. He
I
had the
did
Pee Wee
see-
Herman show.
Yeah, but I did see him on a showcase where he got up and did 5 or 10 minutes of material.
I
As
don't
Pee Wee
know.
or
As
Paul?
Pee Wee, yeah, where he was he was basically doing like a show and tell, like, oh, look at this toy, okay, hold on, and I saw it recently, but maybe it wasn't one of the Rodney ones, maybe it was just some other, because again during that time too, back in the mid '80s. There were
Oh,
a
God.
million shows. I mean, Evening at
Yeah.
the Improv and VH1 Stand Up Spotlight and MTV Half Hour Comedy Hour, plus the Rodney specials. So I mean, there was so many outlets back then to be able to get on TV.
Yeah, and it really meant something when you were on the Tonight Show and all
Yeah.
those shows. Then
Yes.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
it's no one's really on, and it really does. Even if it really doesn't mean anything. Now it's all about how many TikTok followers or YouTube subscribers and stuff like that.
Well, and most of those late night shows, the Tonight Show. Now that Conan's gone, there's nobody that does stand-ups anymore.
yeah.
They don't put stand-ups on their shows anymore. Kimmel
Not-
doesn't do it.
Not regularly.
Colbert once in a while does, but
Yeah.
it's very rare that you see stand-ups on late night anymore. And that used to be a staple of late night. You're right, Bob. I used to stay up late, sneak up when my parents would go to bed after the news to watch Johnny to see who the comedian was going to be.
Yeah.
That used to be something I would do all the time in the early 70s as a kid, because I would want to watch Jonathan Winters was one of my heroes. I loved it because my grandfather introduced me to him, and I'd love when he was a guest on the Tonight Show. But now there's nobody like that anymore, unfortunately.
No.
Because you're
And
right,
what-
Ace.
yeah.
Everyone watches YouTube to see who the comedian is.
It was so much more of a camaraderie then, and I really feel like it becomes so competitive now. Like Johnny would have guest people on the show,
Right.
Yes.
to be the guest hosts, and I thought that was brilliant, because you get to see, think of all the people that came at it, Joan Rivers and
Right.
Yep.
and he even had Burt Reynolds do it one night, and
Really.
yeah, I mean, it was just, to me, that was just the guy who did, what's his name?
Gary
Shanling.
Shandling. Yeah. Gary
Shanling.
Yep.
David Brenner.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
Yeah.
David Brenner. Yeah.
There was such
I
a,
remember him being on.
yeah, he was,
Yeah, think about David Brennan. He's a good guy, and
he was a nice man.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost got to open for him once, and I didn't get to, but I guess he needed a music stand because he had notes, and the club didn't have a music stand, and they knew I played trumpet. So they said, "Do you have a music stand?" So while I didn't get to open for him, my music stand shared the stage with David Brenner.
David
pretty
Brenner
cool.
touched this music.
Yeah, he touched it. He didn't, not in a bad way. I mean,
That
it would have been better
That
if
you know.
he took a pocket knife and like carved his initials in it or something like that. So
Now-
so you started with the Rodney special really catapulted everything, and then you had your own specials.
Yeah. Was it what I was going to ask? What was your first special?
The first, well, they did the half-hour special, so that was kind of like
Yeah.
the one-night stand. That was,
yeah.
I think that was my first, I guess, solo. And then I did the Nelson Schmelson was my first 1 hour,
Okay.
which I thought, I really wasn't going to do it. I had a different idea, but my director had come, and he was with Broadway Video, which was the Saturday Night Live people. And he came to see me at, I think he came and see me at West Orange Rascals. And I had the two doors on stage. I used to work out. I had two doors, one door here, one door there, and then wings on each side where I could come in from the wings against the doors. And I would go in and out of the doors as different characters.
Yep.
And interact with myself. And that comes from when I was a kid, when I used to watch Red Skelton. I remember one time I was watching Red Skelton show with my dad, and I turned to my dad. I would think I was like 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7. I forget how, maybe older. I don't know. I can't remember. 50s, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I was young. And I turned to my dad. I go, Dad, how come Freddie the Freeloader never talks to Clem Cadillhopper? Don't they know each other? Like that. And my dad's going, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I go, he never talked to each other, and he's going, it's the same guy.
You never realized it was the
I
same
didn't realize
guy
he was
'cause you're a
doing the
kid.
character. Yeah,
Right.
Wait, no, what? And so when I got older, I remember thinking, wouldn't it be so cool if my characters could interact with each other?
Right.
How could I come up with an idea like that? So that's where the Nelson Schmelson comes from, where I go in and out of the doors and interact with myself. And the director from SNL, Broadway Video, he said, you got to do this. And they built a set for me. And
That was amazing.
I never was able to rehearse it. I was just trying to wing the stuff that I was always doing at Rascals or at the East Side Comedy Club. And it was a lot of fun, but it never really gelled the way I wanted it to.
Really?
That's where Epi comes from. Epi's from that show.
Right.
Yes, because we have a line, because my kids have all seen the special. They're adults now, all in their 20s, and one's 30. But every once in a while, when somebody in our house says, "What are the chances of that?" we'll say 10,000,000 to 1.
$1,000,000
Because we quote that that is our line in our family all the time. Because when you talk about, your chances of getting your finger stuck in a sink thrown out the window at you, because we have seen that special so many times. And I used to, when my nephew was little, he was in the hospital. I used to do your gorilla impression to make him laugh. When he was in the hospital, just kind of do the walk,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and all, and he loved that gorilla impression. And
That's
I didn't do it nearly as good as you because I didn't have the right headgear for it and everything like that.
You
But
know what?
I never did your stuff on stage, Bob, ever.
No,
but I
no.
did it for family. I
would
did
not.
it for family and friends because I just, it was such an homage to you, because that stuff was, I thought that was, it was so different than the standard comedy special at the time, popping in and out like that. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a true one man show at,
Yeah.
at that point.
The gorilla thing comes, the where that comes from is when I was a theater major, we had to emulate an animal, but we had to go to a cocktail party, and we had to have different
as the animal.
but you couldn't tip. You tried not to tip people off, but until they got it, until they figured it out.
Oh, okay.
But the gorilla, what I used to do is, my dad used to drink a lot, and he used to come home really angry, and he was a construction worker, and he had, they had the hard hat, and underneath they had those helmet warmers, whatever they call them, underneath. And that's where I got the gorilla hat. And my dad would come home and he'd start screaming at us, and I'd grab his helmet warmer, throw it on my head, and start running around the house like a gorilla. And my dad would be like going, "I told you kids to, hey, look at the monkey. Look at the monkey. I love monkeys." It would change the comedy.
It would change his demeanor.
I learned at a very young age. You don't want to be around an angry drunk guy. You want to be around
Make him happy.
Drunk guy.
Yeah, right. Happy drunks are way better.
Yeah, I have a whole little routine about that.
Well, and that's the thing. We've talked about how, that's why a lot of us got into comedy, because it was our defense mechanism, whether it be against bullies or parents, or, it was a way to disarm people. And that, for me, it was doing impressions, and, and Scott, it was doing impressions of a gorilla that you did. But that's the thing. That was a testament, though, to people like you, Louis Anderson, even Robert Schimmel, like all the people that came out of that. Your jokes were so quotable. I mean, I memorized the whole football skit. I used to go in front of friends. It'd be like, "Hey, Tony Cappuccino, Brooklyn University." Oh, fuck. You would
Bob Brubeck.
And this was right guard. This was before, I even stepped foot on stage. It was probably 2 or 3 years before I stepped foot on stage. But honestly, people like you taught me stage presence.
Wow. And timing.
Very early on, I was getting told, because, like everyone else, you start off in a contest, and, I was getting told, like, when they were judging you on material, audience laughs, and stage presence, I was always scoring high on stage presence, because I learned from people like you, from people like George Carlin, from Louis Anderson. Even though he mostly stayed there and stood in one place, his facial expressions told everything.
Very animated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So that was that's how we learned.
Yeah, and I feel the same way, because I was in this weird dynamic in my neighborhood growing up, where there was older kids that were like 3 years older than me, and then younger kids that were 3 or 4 years younger than me, and I literally was the only kid my age. And the older kids would play me comedy records and stuff like that, and I would memorize those jokes. I had this memory where I would instantly know the jokes, and then I would go tell the younger kids, because they weren't allowed to listen to them. But I was.
So you get the younger kids in trouble telling them the dirty jokes.
Yeah, of course. But I remember I would try to do them exactly as I heard them. Exactly, like the timing, the expressions, everything. And I was kind of learning timing at the at that point, and how to express them at the right point, and everything like that.
How to tell a story.
And how to tell a story, from well, they hate to say it now, listen to Bill Cosby records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You learn how to do that, and you don't realize it until you're on stage trying to do your own material, that, hey, wait a second, if I pause here, if I do this, if I do that, it'll help the show a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I always
Now-
had this thing in my head too that I always wanted to try to do something really different. And
yeah.
now that I'm 65 now and I'm doing comedy and I watch all these kids and they're basically doing, most of them are just doing crowd work, and
Yeah.
just kind of like messing
Yeah.
with the people in the audience. And I'm thinking, I don't know if what I would come up with now would be, but I know it would work. But
Yeah.
for some reason, I got this writer's block thing in my head. Like when I did one of my HBO specials, I was with my nephews one night, and we were in the bathroom. We're all blowing bubbles. We're blowing
I know.
bubbles. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And we had these little bubble things that made little tiny bubbles, and my nephews are laughing hysterical. And as they're laughing, they're inhaling. And the bubbles, because we filled the whole room with bubbles, and bubbles are going into inhaling them. And I was like, oh my God, it looks like a fish.
Fish eating food.
So now I'm doing the epi with the fish
Yeah.
eating the food.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I always wanted to come up with,
Right.
really different, crazy, stupid stuff.
Yeah.
So that people would remember it and just really be different. And I got to get back to that somehow it's just a matter, I guess it's just a matter of,
But
Well,
everyone's
play
different. Everyone's different. There are some people that can sit down and say, I'm going to write comedy for 2 hours every day. I'm going to read the newspaper. I'm going to do this. And then there's other people like me, Scott. It has to just come to us. Like something has to strike me as funny.
Yeah.
And then I go on stage and I try it, and it either works or parts of it work, and you have to tweak it. I'm not the type that can say, okay, I'm going to sit down and write funny stuff now. It has to come to you. And because you're character driven, it has to just come to you. How do you sit down and say, I'm going to create a new funny character?
yeah, right. Exactly. When
And your jokes, Bob, have a visual element too. So
Right.
like you said, fish eating food. People have to see that.
Right.
When you did that in one of your specials, you were the farmer and the duck, flying, and you were trying to shoot the duck.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're creating the sound effects. You're doing all this stuff. That's a very visual joke. So it's very brilliantly done, but it also has to be seen to really get that
Right.
joke. You can't
Right.
just listen to it. That can't be on a CD.
Yeah, it's and it's funny because a lot of these radio shows, can we put some of your stuff on it? I'm going, what are you going to put on?
Right.
Right.
It's all
And-
visual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
My buddy has a thing called Joke Zoom, which is online.
Uh-huh.
And basically what it is a bunch of young new comedians or some old
Yeah.
get together and they work on each other's jokes together, which I think is brilliant. It's a great
Like
thing.
a writing club. Yeah.
It's like a writing club. It's called Joke Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was trying to do it, and I was sitting there going, what about this? And I tried to write a joke, and I tried it the other night, and it just fell flat. I said I'm really starting to get depressed more and more because my doctor put me on antidepressants, and it keeps upping the dose, and I'm getting more and more depressed about the dosage. And I'm like, and it was like getting nothing.
Right.
How am I
I
not?
think
And
that's
I'm trying to figure out the wording. I'm trying to figure
Right.
out.
It sucks when you have a great idea that is funny, but you can't figure out how to relate it to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example of one I had recently, Bob. I was on my way to a show, and I got a phone call from my doctor because I went for my physical, and they said my cholesterol was. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, we like your triglycerides to be under 150. If it's over 500, we get worried. And I go, well, what was mine? They said 803. And I'm like, holy shit. So I'm on stage that night and I'm telling the joke. And I tell the crowd, I said, you guys really cheered me up. I got some bad news on the way to the show tonight. And I tell that, and I said, yeah, they basically had trouble detecting blood in my blood sample through all the fat that was in there. And it got nothing. It literally got nothing. It felt, and I was doing really well to that point, and then it just felt
You brought
so
him to a halt.
flat. It literally was like pulling the brake on the train and bringing it to a halt. I was like, what just happened?
Probably because you said it's really bad news. And
Right.
They're probably like, they're believing you. What is it? What is it?
Because I said to the crowd, "Oh, I got this. I don't even know if this is a joke. This happened today, and I shouldn't have said that part." And that's
Right.
because I
Now
made
they're
it too
feeling
real. I made it too real.
Right.
And there's a joke in there somewhere. I just got to figure out how to work it. But
Yeah, the audience is turning to each other, going, "We're going to pray for Scott."
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Die.
Yeah, right.
this poor guy, I hope he makes it home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you think you have this idea in your head, and you go to say it on stage sometimes. It's like, oh my god, I just totally ground this thing to a halt.
So,
Yeah.
so we asked you, we talked a little bit about the specials and stuff, but to you, because you've had so many, all the specials and stuff like that, what is like a high point for you in your career? What was like your, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. I mean, it could have been obviously, listen, if Rodney approached me and said that, that would have been it. But are there
Yeah.
any other things that you were like, wow, this was really,
Besides
really
being
cool?
on this podcast, Bob.
Yeah, besides that, of course, we all know this is the highlight.
I think the highlight, the big one was when I did Johnny Carson. When I
Yeah.
did my first spot.
That's got to be amazing.
Yeah, I didn't have to audition. Jim McCauley called me up and said, Johnny Carson wants you on the show. And I was like, wow, what? And he wants you to do the football thing, but he wants you to change it, and maybe instead of doing the black football player, do a, but you can come on and do whatever you want on the first one.
Right.
And I did Jiffy Jeff, the punch drunk fighter.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was my first one. And I remember when I was so nervous and so frightened. My wife was so excited because, she loved Johnny Carson. We watched Johnny Carson together all the time. And she was staying in the hallway, giving me, some space to try to get my head together. And Johnny comes walking down the hall and was so nice to her and sweet. And then he came in the dressing room and was talking to me, and people saying, "Don't talk to Johnny, don't look him in the eye." They were like,
right, yeah,
saying, "Be careful, he's not a nice guy," and blah blah blah. He came in and said, "Bob, I'm so happy to have you on the show. It's a Friday night. This is a great crowd. I'm looking forward to having you on again. I know you're going to do great." And I'm like, going, "I didn't even go on yet,
Right.
And
he was already hyping you up.
Yeah, and he was saying, he's saying, he says, by the way, you're not going to sit on the couch tonight because Liv Ullman is on, and Liv doesn't like people to sit with her. So, it's okay. I just want to let you know that's what's going to happen." I was like, I'm just happy I'm here,
Right.
And then when I go on stage, they introduce me. As soon as I walked out, it was kind of strange back then, because back then the cameras were so big and they were on wheels. They were the guy sat on them like, they were like, they were like snowmobiles.
Right.
Driving around. And and it was between you and the audience was about a good 50, almost like 30 yards, I would say.
Right.
And Johnny was way to the right, and then the band was way to the left, and you're in front of the curtain, and everybody was so far away, and I was like thinking, this is not intimate enough for me. As soon as but then when I started, it went really well. And I remember, as I was performing, it felt like destiny. It was like I was outside my body experience kind of thing. I'm doing my jokes, I'm doing my act, and I'm hearing Ed laugh, and then I'm hearing Johnny laugh, and then I'm hearing Doc Severinsen and the band kicking the drums and laughing and stuff. And I just remember them laughing. And then when I finished and I turn, I look at Donnie, and he's wiping tears away and says, "You won't laugh any harder in 5 or 6 minutes." And he did that guy, Bob Nelson, funny stuff. And he's laughing. And then he comes back from the commercial and he does an impression of Jiffy Jeff. He's going, you. And that was, to me, was like, I'm done. I'm at the top of the mountain.
Right.
Everything. I'm fine. I'm good. I did it. I climbed on Mount Everest, and to this day I still feel like that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
The pinnacle.
I can't imagine as a comedian to know what it feels like to hear Johnny Carson laughing at your material.
Yeah.
That's got to be an amazing feeling as a comedian.
It's so surreal. It's so.
Yeah.
And now, I love doing what I do, and I perform. And there's times where I could. Since I've had cancer and I struggle
about that.
Yeah, I struggle with my memory, and so I've been doing a couple of shows, and I'm having a hard time with my material and trying to remember it, and my whole stage persona, my stage legs and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm having such a hard time, and I'm thinking, man, I lost this step and this and that. But there were times when I was performing. Once I was at a convention with a bunch of people. And this is way after Johnny, and this is, during my cancer time.
Yeah.
and the people were laughing so hard that I was doing my act, and I continued to do my act, but I was actually stepped out thinking, this is the hardest I've ever heard anybody laugh at me, and it seems really genuine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, going, I guess I'm supposed to do this. And it was like
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
it's a tough thing,
Yeah.
when you lose your confidence. That's what happened when I got sick. That's really what
Yeah.
happened. You lose your confidence. You really start to second guess yourself, and you're vulnerable.
Yeah. So go back to that, because you mentioned it, and we wanted to make sure that we got to talk about it. If if you're comfortable with it, when did you, first of all, you mentioned cancer. When did you get diagnosed? How long ago was it?
It was back in I want to say 2020.
Okay.
2019 is when I started to feel sick.
Okay.
I knew something was wrong. I was having trouble going to the bathroom and stuff, and
Yeah.
it was weird. And I just remember, and then what happened was when right around March, or a little before March, the pandemic started to hit in 2020.
Right. Yeah.
And I couldn't get a colonoscopy
Oh,
because it was
everything that was
elective.
considered elective, right?
Elective surgery, and I knew I had to have something. So I was going to doctors, and they're doing physical kind of trying to figure it out, and they weren't looking at anything, and they're saying it's probably hemorrhoids, it's probably this, probably that, And then by the time the summer came and the beginning of the fall, I'm doing I had a residency at Theater 3. It's a small theater here on Long Island, and I was doing the Doors show. I was trying to reboot it,
Yeah.
And I'm doing all this really physical stuff, and I'm literally feeling like I'm going to pass out after the show. I was like crawling on the floor, putting my pops in a box, and my wife's going, Bob, we got to get something going. So in October of 2020, I got a colonoscopy, and they diagnosed me with stage 3 colon cancer. Wow. And stage 3 means that it breached the intestinal wall.
Okay.
So it breached the wall and went into some of my pelvic area and lymph nodes. It hit the lymph nodes, which is dangerous, and it was bad. Yeah. And apparently what it was a tumor. I mean, I'd be on the toilet, and I felt like I was going to pass out. I mean, I was actually throwing up. I was in so much pain as I'm on the toilet. So I'm throwing up, and I'm trying to go, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And the tumor was the size of a softball. And and it was right. The intestine goes down and then makes a turn at the bottom there.
It was right at the turn.
Right at the turn.
Descending colon.
Yeah, right there, the sigmoid, whatever.
Yeah.
And rectum. So they couldn't operate because it was so big. And they didn't want to cause trouble because it could have. Anyway, so what happened was they had to shrink it. So I'm doing this aggressive chemotherapy, going in the morning, staying there all day long. People are coming in, getting chemo, and leaving. They're coming in for an hour and a half.
You're there all day.
I'm there all day going, what's going on? I got 5 bags, and everybody else has 2 bags.
Right.
I'm going home with this ball. It's like a chemo ball, and it was connected to my chest. And for 3 days, it's going in my system, and I was getting sick, and the chemo was killing me. My feet started getting numb. I couldn't think straight, and I was miserable. I mean, it was horrible. I don't know how my wife dealt with it, because I was so mad and angry and this and that, and and I'm a Christian guy, and I love God, and I'm thinking, I'm going, God, why me? And I'm like, let me talk to Job, something, And then I had to do chemotherapy, and then after that they took like a month and a half break, and then I went right into radiation. They started burning the crap out of it,
right? And
then they cut it out, and then they put the bag on me for a while so that everything could
drain,
could get fixed down there in the bottom. They took out a lot of the rectum, a lot of the colon, and then afterwards they reconnected it. That was horrible because I couldn't eat anything, and I'm trying to eat normal stuff. I'm trying to eat Chinese food, and bamboo shoots are getting stuck in there.
Right,
I'm almost killing myself.
Yeah, right.
Doctors know what you're doing. You can't just go back to the way you were.
You're eating a chili dog, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
So now,
leave the doctor, go get a coney dog.
Yeah.
So now I'm at the point where he says it's going to take a while for everything to
Heal up.
heal up, and things are not going to be normal. And I have to wear the diapers and this and that, and
Yeah.
because I'm going to have accidents because you have nothing. You don't have a
yeah,
rectum.
the muscle
Everybody else
isn't-
says, there's
Yeah, the
nothing there
muscle
for you.
isn't there, right?
And I keep complaining about it. It's going, you don't understand. You almost died. You shouldn't be talking about plumbing things.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So now, I mean, I'm just starting to get out of the woods now. I'm trying to take supplements. I'm trying to understand, because I'm such a dope, because all I have to do is eat right, eat less,
Yeah,
be careful.
smaller,
and,
more frequent meals, but healthy.
and that's not Bob. That's not
Yeah.
Bob. I mean,
Yeah.
my wife
Bob
says
is
to me,
Chinese food or Taco
I was
Bell.
saying, my motivation is a deadline.
Yeah. You don't want that deadline.
Yeah,
though,
my
Bob.
wife says to me, she goes, why don't you do? Because you have these things called cameos where people hire you to do a
Yeah,
cameo for their
yep.
birthday. Whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
And I get them all the time, and it's like 2 hours left. I got to do it. I mean, I have 4 days, literally 3 to 4 days to do it,
To
and I
get it
wait till
done.
the last 2 hours because I know I got to do it now. I got to do
Right,
it. My
right.
wife's going, "What do you do this to yourself for?"
Yeah, right. Why do you
And
put
now-
all that stress on yourself?
Yeah. So now what's happening is, I'm trying to get back into comedy. I can't eat the day of that I'm working because, I'm going to poop myself. I can't eat at a gig.
Right.
I can't go after the show and talk and hang with people. And it's like, it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so many bad things happened. I'll just tell you this real quick.
Yeah.
We were renting a house, and my landlord decides in the middle of the pandemic, while I have cancer, he wants to sell the house.
Oh,
So now we have to move. So we don't have any money. I lost my job. Thank God for my fans and my family, both sides,
Yeah.
that they took care of me with the GoFundMe
GoFundMe.
things. I mean,
Yep.
because if
Yep.
I didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it just saved my life. And then my dog died, and it was like,
Oh, jeez.
my dog died, and then what happened was, after the surgery was all over, and I'm pooping myself, and I'm really negative, and I'm thinking, I can't do comedy anymore. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'm terrified to go on stage still right now.
Yeah.
I have no confidence. I have total writer's block. I don't think I'm worthy. I think, what the heck's going on? And then my wife decides we need life in this house. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I say, I need to just be able to go somewhere and not have to run home to go to the bathroom.
Right.
She says, so we get a puppy.
Yeah.
So she gets a baby Shih Tzu puppy. And I'll tell you right now, that when you're my age or, older, you can't take care of a puppy.
Right. Right.
But the dog saved my life because
Really?
because I'm a deadline guy. I got to
Yeah.
take her out to go to the bathroom because otherwise she's going to crap all over the place.
Right.
I got to
right.
pet her. I got to feed her. I got to do this. I got to do
It's
that.
keeping your mind and bringing you normalcy now.
The dog saved my life,
Yeah.
So it was like,
Am I the only one that thinks it's ironic that you got a Shih Tzu?
yeah.
I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
and now
I was so into his story, I didn't
Yeah.
even pick up on.
You
the
know
out-
me. I'm the idiot that's thinking
that's,
like that.
that's
you know?
funny though.
Yeah.
Can I use
That's it.
that?
You can use it, but just make sure Eddie Murphy doesn't take it.
No,
Okay?
no.
It's yours. I gave it to you.
So now my, like when I'm
Friggin' ace.
when I'm in the vacuum, performing in the vacuum, and it's so surreal. Like
Yeah.
when I was on the Tonight Show. Now what happens is I'm walking my dog, and I get a little too far away from the house,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's coming.
Right.
And here I am. I'm
You gotta
in
get
now.
back.
We're in an old folks. What do you call it? It's
Oh, like a 55 plus community.
yeah, Leisure Village. I
Yeah.
live in a place called Leisure Village with all these old
Yeah.
folks and everything. And I'm walking my dog. This happened literally 3 or 4 days ago, and I'm standing with my dog, and all of a sudden, I'm crapping my pants,
Oh,
and I'm standing in the middle of the street, and I'm thinking, now this is surreal.
right.
Because all these old people, driving by, waving, "Hey, Bob, how you doing?"
Right.
And
right.
I'm literally standing there, crapping my pants. For
Now,
real,
what's funny-
in real life. And
what's-
then I'm thinking, how come I don't think this stuff's funny?
Right, but
You
it
know?
is. You could turn
It
around.
is.
And, you could turn around and say, "My poor dog had to pull out the little baggie and get my crap off my
There
neighbor's
you
lawn."
go.
You know, It's
And you know
there's
what, Bob?
funny in
Other
it.
people, yeah, other people can relate to that because you're not the only one
No.
that's dealt with this.
Right.
So other people, Ace, not to interrupt, but
Yeah.
we got to mention Bob. Do you remember Dana Nathanson? She
Dana was
was
the
the
manager.
manager at the Comedy Connection in East Providence
Yes.
for years.
Yes.
She's watching tonight, and
Oh,
she said hi, great to see you. You
The book
know,
bus story is
yes.
hilarious.
I
Hi, Ace.
remember. Yeah.
yeah,
She's so sweet.
And she
she
just
was
said, Bobby, I pray you continue to get healthy
Oh,
and stay that
thanks.
way. And that's the thing, though, Bob. Like, and it's easy for me to say I didn't go through what you have been through, but you're here. You still have your sense of humor. You've got these things like the brain fog and stuff like that. But man, don't ever think that you're not one of the funniest people in the world to a lot of people that you mean a lot to, that love the fact that you're back doing comedy.
absolutely,
Absolutely love.
absolutely.
People have been telling me that. I got to tell you, I see they just went out my head.
That's all right.
The thing is, like, I have so many people wishing me well and saying, you got to keep doing it and everything. And I keep thinking, but I can't. But I know I can. I know I can.
You can.
I appreciate you guys having me on because this is really helping me, and I'm really getting a kick out of hearing your side because I think I'm so boring. But when there's other people in the room, and they're sharing this stuff, it's fun. It's nice, because I don't really watch stuff. Anyway, so many people have been coming out of the woodwork and explaining to me some of the things that happened. There was this one couple that came up to me and says, "You got to keep doing it because we wouldn't be together if it wasn't for you."
Wow.
They said that there was one time they said when they first met each other, it was back in the 80s. They're married now. They're very happy. And they were sitting on a porch and they had just come back from their first date. And the guy was he was a motorcycle guy or something. He goes, "Well, let me get my helmet," like that. And she goes, "And shoulder pads."
Oh,
and they both said
shoulder pads at the same time.
At the same time, and they looked at each other and says, that comedian? And it was like a connection. They had something
immediately.
And then it became a source of conversation between them where they bonded even more, and then they started watching me more, and then they it became one of those things. And I hear so many stories about I've had women come up to me and go, "Now I know where this character came from that my husband does for me all the time."
Right. Epi Epperman or Jiffy Jeff. Right.
Yeah.
See, you know what it is? It's because we get up on stage and we, do our act, but you don't really think, and we're doing it on a much smaller scale than you are. Like, we're still playing VFW halls for fundraisers. But when someone comes up to you 10, 15, 20 years later and goes, "Oh my God," and I say this in my act now when I pick on someone in the audience for looking like someone, I'll say it. I go, "Look, I'm a jerk. I'm an ass. I just called this guy this, and I don't even think about the fact that this poor guy is going to get called that name for the rest of his life." I literally did a show 20 years ago, called a guy. I said, "Oh, you look like Bill Nye the Science Guy." Called a Bill Nye the rest of the show. I saw him and his friends, I don't know, 15 years later. He goes, "Do you know my friends still call me Bill Nye the Science Guy?" We don't realize the impact that we're having on people. And Bob, you have made such an impact on many people.
What you did was you made a memory for them that they'll never forget. It was a great night out for them. And it's funny too, because when I was going, because I'm still struggling with the whole neuropathy and cancer and all this stuff, and it's been years. I mean, it's 3 years already or more. Really. And and
5.
And I've had friends who have gotten breast cancer and got the surgery, and they're working and they're fine. I've had friends who had prostate cancer, and everything's fine.
Your recovery is taking longer.
Yeah, but it's my wife.
But it was also stage 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's my surgeon keeps telling me, "You idiot! It wasn't just a little something."
Right? They didn't catch it early. Right.
Yeah, and he says so my wife says, but people are going to be able to relate and get help from you because you're going to say, "Yes, I know what you're going through."
Right.
Because you don't want to hear from somebody, "I know what you're going through," if they didn't go through it themselves.
They haven't been through it. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've helped quite a few people, and I've actually convinced many people to get a colonoscopy, which is really important.
Right.
You know, it's really the easiest thing in the world. You know, you might be afraid of the intrusion, or you
No.
might be afraid of going under, because I was never went under or anything.
Yeah.
And it was like, really, actually, there's nothing to it. I mean, you
When
wake
I-
up and you're
No.
fine. You don't feel nothing.
When I turned 50 and I had it, it was a great day out of work. I knew I was going under. I napped all day. You know, I mean,
See,
yeah.
I find the camera loves me. You know, and the camera was not a big deal. It was the film crew that got to me after a while.
Yeah. The
That-
lighting
they were a
guys
little much.
and
The
the boom
sound
mic.
guy was a little
Yeah.
much. you
That
know,
boom mic was
but-
a little much, right? Yeah.
No,
I
but-
tell people after I work with Scott, I tell people my buddy Scott has never heard of HIPAA because his whole act is about his health and
I've
his
told the story.
doctor's appointments.
I've had 3 colonoscopies, Bob, because colon cancer runs very rampant in my family.
No.
My father had it. His brother had it. My grandfather passed from it because my grandfather didn't believe in doctors, never went. My doctor told me a long time ago that I probably have a better chance of developing something than I do of not developing something because of,
Yeah.
how many people in my
family
family had
history.
it. So,
Yeah.
so I had my first colonoscopy at 35 years old because they wanted a record of a healthy
Right.
colon at the time. And I had one at 35, I had one at 45, I had one at 50, and I'm going for another one in a couple of months. So
Again,
it's
Scott, HIPAA, sign the paperwork.
no, I'm sharing my story so I can.
We
help
know,
others.
we know.
You,
All
you
right.
know, I tell the story every weekend.
Every weekend, yeah, exactly.
I'm
Twice a week.
spreading the word. Spreading the word.
Yeah.
So
but
anyway, Ace,
yeah.
I think we need to ask our favorite question, Ace.
Yeah, first of all, we have to thank you for the time that you've given us because we really appreciate it. But we talk about highs, we talk about how people got started, but we always like to end the show with a funny bad gig story, and that was the gig that wasn't funny the night of, but when you're in
Not
the
very
green,
funny, but while it's happening.
yeah, when you're in the green room weeks later, months later, however long it takes you to get over it. And everyone's telling these war stories like, oh, my God, I had to do this gig up in, middle of nowhere, Maine, and, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, you think that's bad? I got one for you.
I have a couple of them, but I'll
All
tell you
right.
this one.
Yeah. You can tell
love
us
it.
as many as you want because
Yeah.
we've had people. When I got asked this before I became the co-host and I was just a guest, I came prepared with 3 stories. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you've been doing comedy more than 6 months, you've got at least 1 or 2.
I did a Christmas party once, but this is short, real quick, and then I'll
Yeah.
tell you the other one. This one, I'm pretty sure it was Cantor Fitzgerald, which is like a big firm in the city, which was
Yeah.
during the whole the 9/11 thing.
Yep.
That was one of the companies.
Oh, that was one of the companies that
Oh,
lost
wow.
a bunch
Yeah.
of people in one of the
Yeah.
towers. Yeah.
Yeah,
I knew it sounded familiar.
Years before, or after, I think it was before, and they said, we want you to do, and it was in the towers. I remember it was in the towers.
Wow.
We want you to do a Christmas party. So I go to do the Christmas party, and it was really dark, and they had a big white screen behind me, and I'm on like a pallet, but it was like and they had a tablecloth on it. So I couldn't stand. It was very slippery. Going, why is there a tablecloth on here? He goes, well, it's a stage. We're trying to make a stage. And I go, well, can we take the tablecloth off? And then they didn't have a mic stand, and I'm very physical.
Yeah.
I couldn't hold the mic and everything. And then they said, well, you're going to go on after Johnny. And I said, okay, great. And who's Johnny? He goes, Johnny's he's with the HR or whatever. And so he goes up there and he starts berating people, about things that they did or what they had to do. And then he says, some people are going to lose their jobs tonight, and it's a Christmas party.
Oh my God!
Just
He was
to let you know.
serious.
Yeah, he was serious, and he says, "I know you heard through the grapevine, so I figure we'll just go ahead and go
Rip the Band-Aid off.
yeah, exactly." And then this other guy, so he does that, and people like look at each other, going, "This is a Christmas party? What the
Right.
And now I'm a comedian. I'm supposed to go on and make these people laugh now.
Right.
Yeah,
So
now
what
for some
happens-
levity.
Half of them just got told they're losing their jobs.
So before I go on, before they introduce me, they introduce this other guy who was fired a couple of months before to let them know what they can do.
Oh my God.
to give them tips.
Let me
And-
give you a
and-
talk on Cobra.
Yeah, and he's joking about it.
Oh
He's got the
God.
white screen, and he's clicking this thing with a screen show. He goes, "You remember Four Seasons? It's not going to be Four Seasons now. It's going to be McDonald's." And then to show a picture of McDonald's,
Wow.
and he's trying to joke about it, and some people laugh, and most of them are not. And I'm thinking, this is sick,
Right. It's
And-
sadistic.
And then I went up on stage, and I remember just bombing, and not and until I started making fun of the guy who fired everybody.
Right.
Then I did okay, but that was like a horror show.
Well, and that's what we've talked about, because the way this question came up is we did a show in season 1 where we had a panel of other comics, and we tried to come up with a list of, it's going to be a bad gig when.
Yeah.
And when like the comedy is a surprise to the audience. When you're doing comedy in a sports bar and they won't turn the TVs off because the playoffs are on.
I've done that.
And the overarching theme is only comics get put in these kind of situations. Like you can, if they hired an acoustic guitar act that night, that guy probably would have killed, would have done fine. But because they put us in these situations where they're like, okay, and now to make you laugh, here's Bobby Nelson, It's the situations that we get put in that are horrible.
Here's the bad one.
Yeah.
But this is kind of humorous.
Okay.
I get hired to do Dave Thomas's birthday party. Dave Thomas is Wendy's.
The owner of
Wendy's, yeah.
Wendy's. It's a cigar smoker. It's a huge fundraiser for cystic fibrosis. Boomer Esiason is the host of the
night.
Of the night, for the charity, and it's a big to do with all these big stars. The host for the evening, who's introducing everybody, is Dick Clark.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Yeah. So I get there, and there's literally 8 acts, something like that, and they're big acts. So I said, "What am I on?" And then Dave Clark says, "Well, you're on after Paul Anka." I said, "I'm on after Paul Anka. You got Paul Anka is going to be here." And so I'm backstage. I couldn't even get in there because they were all sitting in these big round tables, like $10,000 a ticket, circle tables. And I'm trying to watch what's going on. There was no comedians. There's nothing funny about it. It's all just, opera singers and ballet people from the Metropolitan,
Opera, ballet.
whatever, ballet. Yeah. And so now Paul Anka's up, and I'm standing in the wings, and Paul Anka's on stage, and he's got a choir that's behind him, a big curtain behind him. And he starts singing his songs.
The Time of Your Life.
And then he starts singing My Way, because he wrote My Way.
He was doing My Way too.
Right? This is what he closes with. Close with My Way. And as he's singing My Way, the curtain opens up, and there's a choir behind him, and the choir's singing My Way with him. And then a big screen drops down, and Willie Nelson is in Texas, and he's live on the screen singing a duet My Way with Paul Anka on the screen. And then the chorus is singing, and then they end, and it's, I did it my way, balloons coming down, and this is the middle of the show.
Right.
This isn't even the
it's
end.
not even the end. Right.
And all these the confetti's coming down, and balloons like it's New Year's Eve, and the choir's singing, and then they go into this whole Christian rock thing, and then Paul Anka walks off, and then the choir just stands still, and then the clock goes out and goes, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of comedy with Bob Nelson." I'm like going, "What?" And then I run out there with my little bag of suitcase
Bag of
thing.
tricks.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Can I get a stool?" And I'm grabbing a stool and dragging it across. And I'm trying to get a glass of water because I'm going to do morning or whatever.
Right.
The duck, and because I'm thinking it's theatrical, or that might work. I get out there, I stand there, and all of a sudden the choir starts walking down the risers.
Oh God.
All of them. And I'm like going, what the heck? And I'm looking back, and they're walking, and then the lights are coming up. The lights are coming up in the audience. And then everybody stands up, and then they start taking their cigars out, and they're all standing there smoking their cigars.
Oh my God.
And I'm going, so I'm going to do comedy now. And I'm looking at Dick. I go, do I do comedy? Or is there a break? Is this intermission? You know, because I'm like
because
confused.
people are smoking.
Yeah, because people, you know,
Cigars.
and the smoke starts billowing up, and then they all get off the risers, and then now it's quiet. They get off this quiet, and I go, okay, well, I'm going to do this thing. It's called morning, and then boom, boom, boom. They're dropping the risers
They're
down.
breaking the risers
They're
down
breaking the
while you're
risers
on
down.
stage.
While I'm on
Oh
stage.
my
Boom, 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 boom.
God.
And it starts rolling them off. They roll them all off, and the guys running across the front, and they're pulling the wires off the screen, and they're ripping up the wires, and you know, I'm trying to play with. I'm running around with them like I'm part of.
You were a filler.
I was a filler. That's when I realized I'm a filler. So
Yep.
they're running around pulling up wires, ripping them up with the tape and everything, because now they're gonna have dancers come out, and
Yep.
they can't have the tape there.
The tape down, right?
And all the wires. So they're moving all the wires. And I start grabbing wires, and I'm trying to move the wires with them, acting like an idiot, just doing anything to look like a clown. And then finally they get the wires off, and then I go, okay. And then they take out my little handkerchief, and I'm wiping the stage, you know, like I'm pretending like I'm cleaning the stage.
Like you're cleaning it.
And then they get all the risers off. Everything's quiet. I grab my bag. Okay, I'm going to do this routine. It's a thing called morning, blah, blah, blah. And as I'm doing that, I hear like they're rolling a drum set to the middle of the stage.
Oh my God.
And they're bringing in the band. A band is coming in.
Yep.
And the band is going, and they're plugging in the guitars,
Testing the guitars and the bass.
and the drummers going, and everybody's in the audience, like kind of looking, talking to each other, and they're looking at me, and I figured I start doing morning. I just start doing my routine.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to use all the sounds and everything, and then Boomer Esiason says you know he's from the side. He's going, because I have to do 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I'm
45 minutes.
And I'm like going, why 45 minutes? Why not 20? Everybody else was doing less, but they needed the time
to set the stage up.
So Boomer's on the side of the stage going like this, you know, the football. So I grab I finished the duck thing. I start doing the football thing, and I'm doing the football guy, and it's not going well.
No.
At all. It's not. They're like, nobody's paying attention. They're all smoking the cigars. And I do the football thing, and I just barely make it to 45 minutes, and I'm all sweaty, and I grab my stuff, and I walk up the stage, and Dick Clark comes running up to going, that's the funniest 45 minutes I ever saw anybody do.
Well, glad you saw it, because no one in the audience did.
He said, I don't know what the hell you were doing, but I couldn't stop laughing. And then Boomer's saying, I should have come out there
during the football skit, right?
I should have come
help
out.
you out.
Well, really, seriously, why not?
Yeah, right.
I didn't think
a little
of
late
it
now.
That's how you thought of it.
Well, and you know what?
Oh my God.
So, Scott, what was one of the top 10 things? One of the top 10 things you know it's going to be a bad gig is when you are opening or in between musical acts.
Well,
Because
musical acts, yeah.
You're literally, and that's happened to us. You know, you do this fundraiser, and you're just a filler to try and have someone on stage while they're resetting for the next band.
Not to that level, Bob, but I volunteered for a friend of mine doing a fundraiser to do some comedy. And I said, let me go on before you guys do the auction, because their auction was their big thing. Yeah. And I show up early, and they're already doing the auction. And they get done the auction, and the guy goes, hey, thanks, guys, we're going to take a break, then we're going to have the band. And then all of a sudden I see somebody whisper in his ear, and they go, oh, that's right, we have a comedian. Half the crowd already got up to go get drinks and get food. Yeah. And he brings me up to do a half an hour. And there was 2 tables of 8 people watching me out of 400 people, you know, while they were setting up behind me for the band. And
I had
not to the level of what you just did, but almost carbon copy of the same thing. The band's behind me setting up their drums and everything else while I'm talking to 2 tables out of 400 people, and
we've talked about the time I did the fundraiser for it was a community health center 50th anniversary.
Yes.
And they brought me up. They introduced me fine. There was a band before. There were politicians before. They introduced me. I go up. I'm supposed to do 10 minutes of clean material. As I'm walking to the stage, they said, hey, folks, we have a great comedian for Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame, Mr. Ace Aceto. Oh, by the way, The dessert is now being served in the atrium. 500 people got up and walked out to the atrium. I played to 2 tables in this massive airplane hangar of a convention center. So
You got upstaged by an eclair.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So listen, man, we can't thank you enough for being on. I hope you had a good time. I hope this was fun for you.
I did. I'm happy I did it.
We loved having you on. Anytime you as you get your feet back on and and you're doing stuff, if you ever want to come back on and promote some, there's the Shih Tzu.
Oh, there you go.
What's her name?
Zoe.
Oh,
she saved my life.
She saved you.
My little girl.
Oh, she's
look at that. Oh my goodness.
Anytime you want to come on and promote anything, please let us know. We'd love to have
you
back.
Bob.
And,
absolutely. Thanks.
And stay strong, man. And if you ever want to do a Zoom with us, we'll write some material with you.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
God knows I don't have any callbacks in my act, but I'm pretty good at writing callbacks for other people.
Yeah, Ace does not know how to write a callback in his own act at all. So he might need your
show
help
all the time. Well, listen, Bob, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks guys, for being on. We hope you have a great night.
Thanks. I got to take her for a walk now.
All right. Yeah.
All right, Bob. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Take care.
And that was Bob Nelson. That was so awesome.
I'm still fanboying out.
Listen, I knew it was going to be a great show with him anyway.
He's a sweetheart of a man.
Nice guy. Absolutely.
Sweetheart of a man.
And and I had seen him at the Clean Comedy Competition that was here in Rhode Island a few weeks ago, and that's when I asked him. And I told him I heard he had an amazing set that night, and it's just I'm glad to see him back. Back doing
and it. I'm glad to hear he had a good set that night, because it sounds like he's struggling with his confidence, and probably it's not deservedly so. He's probably doing better than he thinks he is.
Yeah, exactly.
He's he probably, because of the time off and not doing it on a regular basis with with all his treatments and everything like that. We all dealt with it with COVID, being away for a while. You're out of sync.
Yeah.
So he's
it takes a while
with
to get
that.
back into it.
Exactly. So,
and we only had to deal with with COVID. He's had to deal with a lot more. So glad.
Exactly. So I certainly hope the guy continues to get out there, continues to build his act, because he's just one of those genuinely funny people.
Like he said, he's goofy, and that's what endears him to everyone.
Exactly, and he transcends. We have a lot of people on here that are a comic. He's somebody that your kids, knew.
Everyone
that
can love. Right.
My parents remember him. Because they saw him on Carson, they saw him on his specials, everything like that. We didn't get to ask him about Kindergarten Cop. A lot of people may remember him. He had a small role in that.
It was very memorable, though.
Yes, he played Arnold Schwarzenegger's partner in that, her fiance.
Yes.
Who was a chef. And it, caused him some pain at the end of the movie, which was very funny. It was a very funny role. So, but I'm so glad he's doing well.
I don't know if you can see there was another comment that came in. I didn't want to break into the show, but Lisa Marie said, Bruce Kowskiowski, tight end. She said, hey, Ace, Bob is one of my all-time faves. His all-star football lineup is the best. I knew it word for word. Who didn't? And by the way, what is UNICEF?
It's kind of like a unicorn.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn. we all knew it by heart.
That's what we raised the money for, to get hats for them to cover up that Woody Johnson on their forehead.
How many times I go, I'm wearing a cup. It ain't no coffee cup. It ain't no.
You definitely don't want to be drinking nothing.
You definitely don't want to be drinking out of it. It was awesome having him on. We've got some great shows coming up over the next few weeks, so please keep on tuning in. Listen, tell people about the show if you enjoy it. Please continue to download them, subscribe. We're working with our buddy Vin Jack on getting an actual website up and running, so that'll be up soon. And I mentioned Pee Wee. And we're going to do another crossover episode with the guys from the Mixtape Podcast, because obviously Pee Wee was huge in the 80s, and I reached out to them. We had been talking about wanting to do another crossover episode with them, And when Paul Rubens passed away, it was just the perfect opportunity to do that.
And I just rewatched Pee Wee's
So-
Big Adventure this
Dude,
past weekend.
I
So
watched it a couple of months ago, and I wasn't a
I
big
still
fan.
laughed.
I wasn't a big fan of Big Top Pee Wee, but his new one, Pee Wee's Big Vacation, that came out a couple of years ago on Netflix, had more. It was more true to the original Pee Wee's Big Adventure. I absolutely loved it. So we're gonna have those guys on. We also, I guess, I can let the cat out of the bag. Another big guest we got coming up in a couple of weeks is the Love Master, baby. We got Mr. Craig
Master of
Shoemaker.
Love. Oh,
We got
I'm so
Craig
excited
Shoemaker
about that
coming
one.
on. Yep, that's going to be great. And, a couple of other people. We got Tony Moschetto coming on at the end of the month. And then,
That's gonna be fun.
September is going to go by really quick, and starting to line up Scott-tober.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on the road a lot that
Yeah, I
month.
know.
So
I know, but-
I'm not gonna be able to tune. I'm not gonna be able to be there.
That's all right. We can record on a Sunday night.
Son of a bitch.
We could do that if we need to. Just because I know you don't want to miss Satori and Cody and the haunted artifacts. So we'll work something.
You
out
know
with that.
what? Those two have been so awesome
Yeah.
that I have mixed feelings because some of their stories have scared the shit out of me, but they're such awesome guests
I know.
that I don't want to miss them at the same time.
I know. So,
But I'm on such a high right now from Bob. But
I know.
I hope everyone that watched tonight, and I hope that everyone that's listening enjoyed that as much as we did. Bob is literally a comedy icon. If you're a person that isn't familiar with him, go to YouTube, Google him, look at his football routine, look at Jiffy Jeff, look at Epi Epperman, Nelson Schmelson. We talked about it tonight. Is an amazing special. The guy is so immensely talented and absolutely has a passion for this. So check him out. If you guys love what we do, please take a moment wherever you download the podcast. I've changed some of the places and that we're really making our presence known. So the big two are Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If that's where you listen, please give us a 5-star written review. It really can help others discover us and help us grow this podcast. But any place you download can help. So if you guys can do that, and of course, tell a friend.
Absolutely. And listen, Scotty boy, I know you're out in a hotel in Jersey. I'm down in the basement. I don't want to rub it in, but I'm going to be heading to the cigar bar for a production meeting alone. But
tell everyone I said hello.
I definitely will. And actually, we're going to be doing a show there in a couple of in September. We're not going to give it away yet because they're going to offer it to their members first. And then after a week, they're going to open it up to the public. But it's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be me, you, and Stephanie Peters. So triple headliner show at Mr. J's Cigar Bar in September. It's going to be amazing. So,
and we might as well announce that we got the band back together at the Dianic Playhouse in September as well. September 15th, Friday night show. Me, you, and Mike Murray, which are 3 of the original 4 that started the Scott Higgins Comedy All-Stars back in 2014. Unfortunately, the 4th member is no longer with us, Dr. Jay Sute. So, but I wanted to
2 other guys to fill his shoes.
And one of them is a good friend of his, Angel Rentis. That's why I asked Angel, because I figured he would be a good fill-in. And then brought in Jeremy Furtado, but we're going to do our very first All-Stars show. It's a brand new playhouse in Niantic, right on the ocean. Beautiful place, a nice little intimate theater there. So we're going to do a show there in September to help that theater out, to help them get launched. They've only been there theater for 4 months, so that should be a lot of fun.
Awesome. So folks, keep staying tuned, keep telling a friend, and other than that, we will talk to you
next week.